Joining us now, NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans, professor of economics and public policy at the University of Michigan, Justin Wolfers, and executive director at More Perfect Union, Faz Shakir. I want to say this unequivocally at the top. There's nothing wrong with needing help to pay your bills. That is not the point of this segment. The point of it is to talk about what situation we are currently in, the state of the economy, where people are using, Christine, these apps to pay for their groceries.
Yeah, and you see them everywhere. You're getting pushed all the time. You go to the grocery store, you go to the mall, and it's so quick. It's frictionless. There's no loan application that you can see. They do a real fast credit approval, and you don't have to do anything. You get whatever it is you're buying, and they break it into 4 equal installments, usually pay in 4 is what most of these are. These started, a little history lesson, these started for like exercise equipment, braces, mattresses. They've been around for a long time, but now they're mainstreamed into just about everything that you can think of. And people are really using them a lot. And you're right, Katie, to point out, this is good for you if you pay them on time and you don't have a credit card interest rate, a 20% credit card interest rate. This is something that can be a tool, except if you don't have the money, if you're financially strained and you're so easily adding up all of these different things, you can get in financial quicksand pretty quickly.
So, Justin, what happens if you can't pay these bills on time? Christine was saying that there's not the APR like a credit card. What happens if you miss a payment?
My understanding is you end up paying a whole lot more. So Christine's advice is exactly right. There's not a problem with using this per se. There's a problem with getting behind. So the day you make a purchase, you write in your calendar exactly how it is you're going to be able to pay it back. And if you can't write that down, don't make the purchase.
As the economy itself. People were talking very much about it in the lead up to the last election. They couldn't pay their bills. Groceries were too high, blaming the Biden administration for it. And now we're seeing, I don't know how to underscore more the fact that people are using buy now, pay later to pay for essential things like groceries. Like groceries. I mean, what does that say to you about an individual American's ability to get by currently?
Well, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, you remember that we put together, Democrats working with President Biden, put a lot of money into people's pockets. And it was in the form of stimulus, unemployment checks, child tax credits, a whole variety of measures to ensure that during one of the most toughest financial times, people could get through that. And they did. And we got better. And as a result of that, in my view, at least, you had a huge amount of corporate driven price inflation. And during the last couple of years, that price inflation has hit people in all different kinds of ways to the point where for a middle class person, working class person, the cost of the basic essentials of life have become more unaffordable than ever. So this is not even just the groceries. This is just paying for houses, a house, a car, childcare, college education. Those things are taking up 80% of a person's budget. Then you get to the point, right, where Klarna has to fill in the gaps. I can't even afford, just getting groceries. So now buy now, pay later steps in. It's becoming a bigger business. By the way, the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, was looking into this, worried about the rise of it. And guess what? It's been decimated under Donald Trump. And so you have really unregulated nature of credit being put upon working class people. And I worry about the state of debt on people's lives if we can't afford it, right?
The ticking time bomb of that debt. But let me linger for a minute on the deregulation of this. Let me play the Klarna CEO talking to Audie Cornish on her podcast.
I am one of those people that when I learned you could basically Klarna your DoorDash burrito, I was like, that seems unwise. Like, why even offer that option?
Yes, and that is unwise. I would not recommend anyone to put a burrito on buy now, pay later. For clarity, I feel that the product that we supply is actually a healthier alternative, but as any credit product comes with risk of overspending, indebtedness, or to your point, making it too easy, too accessible, or may encourage people to incur more debt than they should. And so it is a delicate balance to try to balance those two things and think about, like, how do we provide these services in a way that makes sense.
Are these And there's also a question of, are these buy now, pay later options predatory? Let me read this from a CNBC article today. Buy now, pay later programs are a scam. Douglas Bonaparte, the certified financial planner and founder of Bonafide Wealth, recently posted on LinkedIn. They encourage overspending, destroy credit, and saddle you in debt, and target consumers who are most susceptible to borrowing when they shouldn't. Society would be better off without them. Look at late payments by Generation Z. 57% of Generation Zers made a late payment in the past year. 49% of millennials made a late payment in the past years. 32% of Gen X, 11% of baby boomers. There's also concern that a lot of the people that are using this are people that wouldn't normally pass a financial check to get a large, what's the term we're looking for, Christine? A large
credit limit?
Credit limit on your credit card, but this is not something that has a credit limit. So how does a consumer protect themselves? Is there a bureau that might help consumers protect themselves from things like this?
Yes, it used to be called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And actually, in the Biden administration, that CFPB had been pretty aggressive about buy now, pay later, saying that, look, if personal finances start to unwind, people are going to be in trouble, and also warned that a lot of people are having multiple of these loans with these 4 different payments. And it's so easy. Sometimes people don't even know how many they have because you go to the grocery store and it says, would you like to pay in 4 installments? You say yes, boom, and then it's done, So it's super easy and can lead to this impulse buying, instant gratification and impulse buying, which, of course, any financial planner will tell you is the death of your family budget.
And Justin, is this a political time bomb?
Look, Katie, I'm going to surprise you. I'm not actually totally against it. Sometimes you want to ask yourself, if we don't have, say, Klarna, what would we have? And for a lot of families, particularly those facing poverty, say your car breaks down, if you can't afford a repair, you can't get to work. And if you can't get to work, you lose your job, and then poverty becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. So really the question is, are folks going to Klarna, is that instead of going to a payday lending shop, in which case it's good news? Is it instead of doing without, in which case it's good news? Or, and this was the point Christina just spoke to, are they being tempted to buy things that they would otherwise not need? And so that's where I think it comes back to your point, Katie, that really what we want is, yes, we want products where you can borrow from your future income if things are a little tough today. That's just expanding the group that are out there to help you. But we want to make sure they're there to help, which means the most important part is making sure we have pro-consumer regulation.
But here is the fundamental rub, and Faz, I know you can speak to this. The fact that people need this sort of help, the fact that people need to go to this or a payday lender in order to make ends meet, the fact that if their car breaks down, that can financially ruin them. The fact that the economy is so delicate for a great swath of Americans that one errant bill, one unexpected bill can be the end, or the fact that their grocery bill, which is going up, can be the end, and that they would need to turn to something like this. There is so much frustration and anger embedded in that's been boiling over now for so many years. It is one of the reasons why Donald Trump won. That's why what voters say, they were upset about the economy. They couldn't afford things.
People got to eat and people got to live. And I agree that what I worry about here is that you paper over the problem for lawmakers who need to actually address the cost of living crisis. If you have big business coming in and saying, hey, yeah, people are swimming in debt, but I can make debt cheaper for them. I can make it easier for them. They can just get even more debt onto their heads in order to live. Then we haven't addressed a cost of living crisis that policymakers are largely averted and not talking about. Are we in need of stimulus? Are we needed of bringing down healthcare costs? Are we in need of childcare debt? Well, no, don't worry about it. Klarna is taking care of it and making sure people have the ability to just put more debt onto their heads. That isn't a solution. And we had a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that was reporting to us during the Biden administration that you had people with subprime credit scores who are more increasingly the ones who are taking on Klarna. They're younger people under the age of 25. Now it's starting to expand. And so I worry that it's not that Klarna is a bad product. It's that we are masking the problem for policymakers who need to be addressing a cost of living crisis.
And that's why I wonder, Christine, if it's a ticking time bomb. If this starts to spiral out of control, if tariffs do more damage, if people start not being able to keep up with these payments, and they start getting really nervous about their future and they find themselves in even more debt, is that the ticking time bomb for politicians that promised to make them wealthier, to promise to put money in their pockets?
I mean, I look at the growth of this financial product, with just amazement. It has grown so much. Some of these young people don't have access to credit cards. They've never had a credit card. So this is an easier way to sort of manage their finances. So for some young people, this is like a really great tool. But just like with credit card debt, if you have so much debt and you're living beyond your means week after week and month after month, at some point that catches up with you.
There's also the issue, Justin, of education. I mean, part of what enabled so much credit card debt to explode is a lot of younger people would say, well, I just didn't understand that this was what was going to happen. I didn't really understand what I was signing. I didn't know that it was going to compound in this way. And with this, it seems like there are even fewer guardrails.
I absolutely agree. Katie, if you come to an economist and you say, do you think financial education's a good thing? What do you reckon I'm going to say back to you? Come join my Econ 101 class. We'll get into all of this. It's why I admire the work that Christine Romans does so much. This is about fundamentally educating people so they can make good choices. And Katie, let me actually surprise you now with someone who's actually been very good on this. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has come out at several points and he's actually advocated for greater financial education. Now, he hasn't done anything about it, but out loud he said that this is really important. So this deregulated all costs approach, different people have different views, but if we are going to go ahead, going ahead with a well-educated public is our best defence.